It was the year the UK formally announced itself to be the world leader in generating electricity from offshore wind farms. Both the private sector and the government keen to let everyone know that Britain is out in front in renewable energy technology for the first time ever. The UK currently gets 3 gigawatts of electricity from wind power. 80% of that is from onshore farms. But 2008 was also the year in which companies continued to increase investment in alternative forms of clean energy. Cleaner options to fossil fuel, a more cautious government approach to biofuels, and the continuing debate over genetically modified crops, all on the 2008 agenda, and a government set on fixing climate change targets.
For 200 years, oil, gas and coal have supplied the British economy with a plentiful and secure energy that has powered our progress and our prosperity. But over the coming decades, we must move from this largely fossil fuel-based economy to one primarily powered by low-carbon energy, particularly, of course, renewables and nuclear, and when it can work commercially, carbon capture and storage. Now, at present, around 8% of total energy supply in Britain is from low-carbon sources, 2% from renewables, 6% from nuclear. In order to meet our global climate change targets, by 2050, virtually all energy for electricity and most of the energy used for heating, cooling and transport in our country will have to come from low-carbon sources.
In the background, the constant scientific warnings over the consequences of greenhouse gas emissions and the impact of climate change on the internal and international food chain. This from one leading government expert in November.
Can we feed the world in a climate change era? Business as usual, as far as I'm concerned, will not suffice. We need major changes in trade policy. We need pro-poor trade policies. We need to change technologies. We have many technologies that will move us in the right direction, but we will need some new technologies, but they've got to be environmentally sustainable. And we need to have some new practices where we bring together indigenous and traditional knowledge with knowledge from universities. We need to put the farmer in the middle.
Lord Nicholas Stern, author of the much-praised report on the economies of global change, added his concern.
If we fail on climate change, we will undermine all the progress that we have been making and all the progress we should be making on development and fighting poverty. If we fail to put a coalition together which is low-carbon growth, which allows the overcoming of poverty, we will actually fail on our action on climate change. They're intimately related and we have to think of them together.
Greenhouse gas emissions, traffic pollution, city smog, all fortifying the government's belief that climate change is not just an environmental issue, it remains one of development too. And the scientific community in the UK led the search for cleaner, safer options. Scientists at Cambridge University looking at ways of turning algae into biofuel at a sufficient level to justify continuing research.
Looking for alternatives to fossil oil-based transport fuel, particularly for aviation, for which there are a few other ways of generating energy. And algae have a property where they can produce quite a high quantity of oil, which has been interesting to scientists for a while. And it looks like a combination of real market appetite and advances in biology have meant that now's a good time to really see if this way of making sustainable and low-carbon biofuel could be a reality.
In Yorkshire, a project to revitalise a 100-year-old derelict hydroelectric plant to help supply the country's national grid. The idea, to find local solutions to the global problem. A point not ignored by the country's energy minister.
The economic situation is no excuse for delaying on climate change, indeed quite the opposite, because we know that the longer we wait, the more it costs in terms of climate change. That's what the Stern report showed. And I also think there are ways that we can tackle the economic situation that we face and the climate situation that we face. For example, the interest that President-elect Obama has shown and that we're showing in Britain and that others are showing in so-called green-collar jobs is a sign that you can tackle both things.
It was also a year in which one city, Birmingham, hosted the country's first climate change festival. Serious messages behind the fun, taking responsible control of available resources. 2008 was a big year for further recognition of the urgent need for environmental action at local, national and international levels. National boundaries no barrier to extreme weather conditions, and increasing acknowledgement that only by working together can countries deal with what is being described as the biggest challenge ever for the planet.